Welcome to another highly disorganized wine steward video, and it's great to have you, and I welcome you to have a look at this week's props. These things meant to inspire me to say something witty or more importantly to use something useful about your shopping at the Wine Steward, what you could come in and find this weekend at the Wine Steward. Let us just point out the fact that there are shoes here, and that's just to say that actually my table in my office is covered with clothing, because when we do events, I run into the office 15 minutes before the event and change clothes, because maybe I got here at 8 in the morning and at 6 o'clock event time, I'm ready to wear a new uniform. It just makes me like up again to put on a nice shirt and some nice slacks and whatever, and change my shoes out. So this is what we've been doing this week. We did a private event on Tuesday for Mirador, and then just last night turned right around and did a nice French wine event with an importer named Gregoire, who was losing his voice but was still fantastic in showing you 12 different, 12 different French wines, affordable and fresh and fun and lifted for the summertime sipping. And every time a new change of clothes. And so by the time I'm through those things, I forget to take my clothes home. It's like I am done. Anyway, that's just to indicate that we do events here. We would love to have you upstairs for one of them, whether private or public. You can rent our mezzanine if you want to have your group up here. A lot of ways to do it. And that's what we try to be, flexible on your behalf. Now what we're down to, shoes off the table, is cheese and wine. Well, what a great pairing, of course. We have here burrata as a reminder to me to tell you that we have a lot of burrata in here right now, because now your cherry tomatoes, at least, are getting ripe. You're probably conspiring to make the best ever insalata caprese, and you need burrata. You need good burrata. Get the real stuff from Puglia, Italy. It's flown over for us from there. Puglia, Italy, the heel of the boot, they often call it. This is the real stuff. And you've had it before, maybe at the wine bar, but we sell it downstairs too. It's fantastic. And it is fresh, and it's here. We have a lot of it. Help us with our inventory issues per burrata. All right. Now, what about this? This is meant to remind me to tell you something else. That your June Wine Club wines are ready to pick up. Now, I know that not all of you are Wine Club members yet, and yet I would love to have all of you involved in that way, because it sustains the Wine Steward. So for selfish reasons, I would love to have you all aboard so that every month we can ring you up for 2 bottles of wine that we choose for you. And we still get to exist as the Wine Steward. I mean, as you can imagine, the wine clubs, 6 of them, are very, very important to our survival. That said, it's not all about us. It's about you. We do choose you wines very, very thoughtfully. I taste about 150 wines every week in order to choose 12 for the wine clubs. There are 6 different clubs. Each club gets 2 bottles every month. This is just one of them. I keep showing you the back label. This is very interestingly labeled Mia Cala, which means absolutely nothing to most of you. Meant absolutely nothing to me a couple of years ago, and then finally I got to start being exposed to this beautiful wine from the Cachapoal Valley, or Valle de Cachapoal in Chile. And this wine was so freaking good when I tasted it most recently with its vendor that I said, boom, world-class wine club. We get the exposure. You get to go to a store and choose. We have people bringing us hundreds of wines every month from which we get to choose on your behalf. Now, we are finding you good things, in my opinion, and I'm pretty sure that we have a pretty good track record of doing that. But what you still have to have on your side is a love of diversity and a little certain sense of acceptable risk. Because not everything is your cup of tea, but we do promise that everything we give you is distinctively good. And I just finished writing the wine club notes about this particular wine. That's another thing we do. We write a whole page of notes, personally written, not cut and paste from some freaking website. We write the notes so that we can connect with you that way. Why you should drink this, when you should drink it, what it's made of, a little history, a little background on the wine, most importantly, why we chose it for you, and so on. Like, what's it made of, all the facts, but also why it's personal for us, and why we chose it for you. And so wrote those wine club notes. I even forgot what I was talking about. This Mia Cara struck me as fulfilling both of the things we want to give you. We want to give you distinctive In other words, something that you might not have heard of before, but something that really has a strong voice, depending on where it's from. If you've signed up for the World Class Wine Club, you accept the fact that you're going to get wines from all over the world, almost always red wines, and yet you don't know what we're going to choose for you next. It could be a Barolo from northern Italy. It could be a Châteauneuf-du-Pape from the south of France. It could be Rioja from Spain. Or we could take you to Australia, or Argentina, or Chile, aquí. And you're just saying, please, show me. I'm open-minded, and, I'll choose to open that wine. Upon reading your notes, Jim, depending on what I am cooking, who I'm having over, the wine will come in handy, I promise you. But my mandate, my self-appointed mandate on your behalf is to buy for you wines that are distinctively delicious. Distinctively means the wine is it's got a nice, powerful voice of location. Now, Chile always has a powerful voice of location, right? I mean, we who have had Chilean red wine anticipate pepper of all kinds. Green, red, smoked, peppercorn, all those peppery things happen in a Chilean red. Often too much of a good thing, or, so much of a good thing that it's no longer good, right? That's what Chile can be with its red wines. Distinctively, okay, you got distinctively down. Delicious, it has to be Chilean red wine that works. This works in that those qualities of Chile, those distinctive qualities, distinctive to place, happen moderately, beautifully, elegantly, in a lithe way. This is not an over-the-top red wine. This is a blend of Cabernet, Carmenere. Did you expect something else from Chile? Merlot, Cabernet Franc, Syrah, and I think that's about it, but that's enough, right? A lot of goodies in there, a lot of very fragrant things. What a beautiful notes. We know it's from Chile. We wonder, is it going to be too much, or enough, or not enough? It's elegant. Somebody figured out how to do Chile elegantly. I mean, more than the others have as well. But it is one of the Chilean tricks to capture Chile and also to give it to you so that you will want to drink a second glass. That will happen here with Mia Cala. Beautiful World Class Wine Club. This is simply a way of announcing that your June Wine Club wines are ready to pick up. Right on. Having gotten that over with, let us tell you what we're doing in the wine bar this weekend, and also tell you that if this video is out in time for you to see it today, the game's on tonight. We'll have it on the TV. I think it starts at 6, and go Dubs, right? Right. And what you can drink while you celebrate that Dubs victory, hopefully, unless you're a Celtics fan, is a white flight that includes whites that have just arrived. This is a wine from Abruzzo, Italy, and it makes me want to practice the little phrase I just learned because it's on the actual label and I'm not going to cheat. Chiamami quando piove. That means call me when it rains. And that's what this small grower producer said to a guy who wanted to come up and interview him at the winery, and he kept calling. This guy was just calling and calling and calling. He could never get a hold of the guy who's growing these grapes and making the wine. Why? Because he was always out in the vineyard. This guy is so obsessed with viticulture, with making sure the vines are going to produce the very, very best crop possible, that he was busy, unless it rains. So basically, call me when it rains. And so what you have as a result is this beautifully designed label, rather cute with an umbrella. Let me try that again. Chiamami quando piove. I didn't cheat, right? At any rate, this is Pecorino. Pecorino is the name of one of the most prevalent local grapes. Pecorino, the name of that grape is derived from the name of the animal, pecora. Pecora, better known to we English-speaking types as sheep. A pecora also produces pecorino cheese, but they also like to eat the leaves of pecorino vines. So they just went ahead and named that vine after like that creature's favorite wine grape leaves to eat. Anyway, pecorino, which doesn't like stick out like a sore thumb as far as character goes. I think it's just wonderfully nice, vibrant, acidic, perfect Italian food white, crisp, lively, new vintage, got here. Really good. Clean and fresh, or fresh and clean, whichever way you want it, whatever sequence you prefer. And now we're going to take you to Spain, to Rioja, Spain. You've heard all about Rioja, Spain, but what we rarely show you are white wines from there. Rioja, Spain is, of course, famous for Tempranillo. Well, here's Tempranillo. And you're saying, wait a minute, Jim, you said we're going to pour a white wine next. Yes, we're pouring a white wine. Look, that's Tempranillo. Look at that. As of 1988, there is such thing as Tempranillo Blanco. Or I should say Blanco. Have you ever done? Okay, this is an aside. Let's get this down. Italy, white wine Bianco. In France, Blanc. In Spain, Blanco. In America, it should be blankety blank, but no, we call it white. That's boring. But anyway, this is Blanco from Rioja, Spain. Tempranillo, I know I'm being confusing. In 1988, a farmer went through his Tempranillo vineyard, red wine grapes, and saw one grapevine that was all of a sudden, that year, growing white grapes. It was a mutation. This happens very occasionally, and it's cool when it does. So what he did was propagated that, and then in the meantime, they grew more and more vines off of that one vine, and finally, the powers that be in Rioja said, okay, this is cool. We now have an official Tempranillo Blanco grape that can go onto the label and be represented as Rioja Blanco. And here it is. So you get novelty, but you also get, in my opinion, deliciousness. This is going to the White Wine Club this month. So a lot of you are going to taste it that way. More of you can try it up at the wine bar. How about that? It's a great story. It's also delicious wine. Very refreshing for this time of the year. Alrighty, where shall we go next? Hey, let's come closer to home. This is perhaps the only Grenache Blanc made in the Napa Valley. There might be a couple others, but we never see them. Maybe they're just like holed up in tasting rooms and never get out into the retail light of day. But here is our old friends Priest Ranch making a very nice Grenache Blanc. Let me fix this phone a little. Okay, there's the full picture. Lose a little of my head, that's no great loss. And get all the bottle. Grenache Blanc, a mutation, another one of those. You know, Grenache is a red grape, and quite a while ago in Tierra Alta, Spain, it mutated to Garnacha Blanca, or Grenache Blanc, and made this. And now it's propagated and grown all over the world, including at Priest Ranch at the Napa Valley. Well up above the Napa Valley, may I say. Cool stuff. When you smell Grenache Blanc with like 2 years on it, it starts to smell a little bit like a pine tree, a little bit resinous. I would like to ask a chef what he or she might do with these flavors. No oak, smooth. It spent time in a stainless steel tank on the lees, the dead yeast cells, that creamy stuff on the bottom, imparted a little more textural mouthfeel to the wine. It's got some body, but it's clean body, along with that little touch of pine. Not offensively, it's just there that identifies it. It's one of those tags for Grenache Blanc or Garnacha Blanca, depending on what you want to call it. And now we are going to take you to España, back to Spain, to Ribeiro. Ribeiro is just north of Portugal in Galicia. So we're in northwest Spain, green Spain we often call it. And this is a grape called Treixadura, by a producer that names it La Flor y la Abeja, which means the flower and the bee. Very cute. You got a little bee costume going on up here. And this is a grape, like I said, Treixadura, that has just a little more going on aromatically, a little more floral. And maybe if you take this name very seriously, you can detect a slight beeswaxy quality. It is the last wine in the white flight because it has the most attitude, but it's still clean, no oak, brilliant, beautiful white wine from the cool part of Spain, green Spain, Galicia, and more specifically, Ribeiro. I got here just today, just in time for your flight. All right, that's the white flight. Now I would like to tell you about the rosé that we'd like to pour, except I shouldn't really. Okay, Rhonda. Rhonda's a good friend of ours. Rhonda Wood out at Wood Family Vineyards decided to name this Pink Pearl Rosé. And put that, yes, that's an oyster, folks, I think, with a pearl in it. I'm not going any further with that, and I keep saying that, so I better shut the hell up. This is really beautifully made, accurately made. Kudos to these guys. They've nailed it. They figured it out. There are a couple of very, very good dry rosés now in the Livermore Valley, and that didn't used to happen. And Livermore Valley, along with the rest of California, is figuring out how to make good Rhone-style or Provence-style rosé. Grenache from the Livermore Valley. I love it. It's right. It is correct. It's delicious. chill it. I don't have it warm right now. And I still want to have some luscious pink pearl in my mouth. It's delightful. Very smooth and lush. That's nice. Good job, Rhonda. All right. Enough of that. Let's get serious. This is Cabernet from Washington State, and you can order this by the glass, not by the taste. It's not part of a flight, but we thought because of what we're doing on the flight, some of you bigger and more muscular people, mostly men, are going to want a cab. Give me a cab. All right, well, here's your freaking cab, all right? LTL Cab is made by Chris Upchurch, the founding winemaker of DeLille Cellars, but now he and his wife Tia have a situation on Red Mountain where they make their own wine called Upchurch. And this is the second label for their Upchurch Cabernet, which sells for about $80. This is more like 33, and it is remarkably dense and dark, impenetrably dark. Beautiful Cabernet from Washington State. That's the cab of the week by the glass, all right? Get in on that. What is really, really super duper cool, I don't think I've said that since I was 12, is the red flight that we're gonna give you. We have a situation right on the other side of this wall that you cannot see, but on the other side of my office wall is the entrance to a very large situation that has 80 lockers within it that are temperature controlled, where people rent space from us and keep their excess collections, or they keep collections that their excess don't know about. At any rate, there is a lot of wine back there kept in a beautiful, colder situation, like let's say 55 degrees. And that suspends wine. It keeps it aging at a slower rate. What else does it do? It, in the summertime, makes a certain group of red wines wonderful to drink. All you do is go to your cellar, 56 degrees, boom, let's crack this open right now. It doesn't need to warm up. We are emphasizing wines on the red wine flight this week that are not about glass. Last week we talked about glass shape, but this time it's about temperature. We want to show you 5 crunchable red wines that are best perhaps tasted at cooler than room temperature. So let's have 5 of those. Every time one of these goes dry, we're going to run back to the cellar where we're going to store all of this week's wine club or wine bar wines and get the next bottle. And so why don't we show you, at least theoretically, what we think to be 5 wines, red wines, that are fantastic at a cooler temperature. What are we doing this time of the year? We are going outside. We are suffering through Livermore Valley heat a little bit, right? We're barbecuing. Now, when you barbecue, first of all, you're handling heat as warm, and you're making something rather rich and fatty. So that's big on big. Why don't you add something red? You want red wine, right? I know you guys never give up your red wine. Well, drink a red wine that can be served a little cooler. How about that? This is from the aforementioned La Flor y la Abeja, the flower and the bees, same guys, up in Galicia, now making a wine here called Sousson. Never heard of it? I hadn't either until the vendor told me this is also known as Suzão. Well, I had heard of that. That's a grape that's often used in the Douro Valley of Portugal. So the Portuguese name for the grape is Suzão, and you cross the border, and of course the Spanish have to change the name, so it becomes Sousson, and that's what you have here. I try to say it as if it's French. Sousson would be the Spanish way of saying this. Let's just say drink it colder or a little cooler. Nice pop to it. Beautiful nose. Brilliant. Think about garden smells, like wet earth and pulling beets. If you have ever harvested beets, and you can imagine wet earth clinging to the roots of the root, and just that smell of like sweetness of the veggie and the earthiness. And I hope that saying this wine is slightly vegetal is not a turnoff. It's the sweetness that is the attraction here. But there's this earth and veg going on at the same time. It's cool stuff from Galicia, Spain, right? Okay, then they're done that. Let's do something else. Let's go to Austria for a Zweigelt. Zweigelt. So Zweigelt starts with a Z, but it's most correctly pronounced if you kind of make a T sound before the Z. Zweigelt. How about that? Sounds so Germanic now. This is Zweigelt from a producer called Kracher. They're most famous for very high scoring dessert wines. Kracher, see the name there? And here is Zweigelt by them. It's a cross Zweigelt, I think, was created in like the 1920s, perhaps, by a guy named Zweigelt. People are very fond of naming their new grape varietal creations after themselves. And Mr. Zweigelt said, I'm going to take Saint Laurent and Blanc Frankish, put them together and see what happens. What he happened upon was a fantastic, beautiful wine that is crunchable and chillable. It's really, oh my God, that has a lot of attitude. And I promise you, to smell this and taste this at a cooler temperature is the best thing to do in the summertime. Look, it's super dark, beautiful wine. Damn, I think it's going to be the favorite wine of the flight. Unless this is. Look at that. Uh-oh, it's another Magnum of Beaujolais. Last week we did this too, but this is yet another Magnum of Cru Beaujolais. This one comes from Juliana, right? Yep, Juliana. One of the crus, one of the 10 crus. If we had more time in this video, I would name them all, but I don't have more time. I'm just going to taste this wine. 100% Gamay from vines that are over 80 years old, growing in granite. Don't take it for granted. Try the wine and try it cool. Gamay is a beautiful wine. Gamay from Beaujolais is fantastic, served a little cool. Beautiful, and I think ageable. This is a Magnum that you should like put away for a while. In Magnum form, it will age, I promise you, for at least 10 years. And I only spoke for 12 of these. We're probably gonna open 3 or 4 of them at the wine bar this weekend. So if you're open-minded and into this kind of thing, grab one of these Magnums if you have a cellar for it and tuck 1 or 2 of them away, all right? Juliana from Beaujolais, made entirely of Gamay. Now look at this. This is a cool label, huh? It says absolutely diddly squat. It's kind of like the White Album by the Beatles. This is the white label from, well, Mark Armstrong and myself. My friend and I both grow Grenache and Mourvedre, especially in our backyards in the Livermore Valley. And we made a little wine, and we want you to have some. We feel like that what we came up with this year was lighter in color, lighter in body, and extremely good if you chill it a little bit. So serve it cool, hot summer day. This is going to be mostly Grenache and Mourvedre with just a tiny bit of Syrah going on. But you can see, perhaps by the color, put it up against the White Album label here. So you can, anyway, still like it. This is not for sale. This is just fun. This is fun to share with you, but it's wine number 4 in our flight because it really plays. We bottled it a couple of weeks ago. We probably should like lay off for another 2 more weeks to let it get over so-called bottle shock, but I am impatient. And I thought it would really fit in well with this flight, and I think it works. I'm eager to hear what you say. So there is a local product for you. Not for sale, but for tasting. How about that? The white label. And finally, last but not least, another theory about chilling red wine is to sometimes take alcohol down and take red wine power down a notch by serving it cooler. Especially on a hot summer day, a big Cab, a big Syrah, a big Shiraz, as this is going to be like too much on a hot day. Well, what do? You just adjust temperature a little bit. Adjust the temperature, becomes drinkable. This is cool because it is 2010. It is 12-and-a-half-year-old red wine from the Adelaide Hills of Southern Australia. It's loving the temperature. It has major attitude, but I can tell you it's not too over the top because of temperature. It's a great way to finish. It's kind of fun to have a different theme every week. Sometimes it's a location. Most recently, it was a glass shape. And this time around, it's about talking about how red wines can be served a little cooler. You know what? If they're too cold, get your hands all over it. But err on the side of serving too cold. And don't err on the side of serving too warm. There's not so much you can do about that except for adding ice cubes. And most people would say that's not cool. I did it once. Have a good weekend. Thank you, and go Dubs.